The Japanese have a slightly strange belief. If your mind leaves the room before your body does, you were never really there at all. Sounds odd, but think back to your last dinner with someone. You were sitting there, they were talking, and your phone lit up. I'll just check this. I'll come right back. You went back to the conversation. Part of you didn't. This happens so often, you probably don't even notice anymore. That reminds me of an old story. There was a man in Japan in 1860 who never let that happen to him, not once. And once you understand why, you may never look at your phone on the table the same way again. His name was Ii Naosuke. That year, there were people waiting to kill him, really waiting, right outside his gate, not some exaggeration. And every morning, he still made tea, like nothing was wrong, for whoever showed up. No rushing through it, no letting his mind wander to something else while his hands went through the motions. He was just there, fully, every single time. Sounds backwards, doesn't it? You'd think fearing for your life would scatter your attention, not sharpen it. But for him, it worked the other way. Knowing today might be the last time was exactly what kept him from letting his mind drift, even for a second. Later, he wrote down 4 words that captured all of it. Tea masters in Japan still repeat them today. Most of the people who say them have no idea where they actually came from. People usually tell this story a little differently. They say those 4 words, Ichigo, Ichie, belong to Senno Rikyū, Japan's most famous tea master who lived nearly 300 years before Ii Naosuke. That makes sense, actually. Rikyū really was the first to talk about this. He taught his students to treat every tea gathering as if it could only happen once. His student, a man named Yamanoe Soji, even wrote it down in his own notes. But Rikyū never wrote the exact 4 characters, Ichigo, Ichie. What he actually said was Ichigo ni Ichido, close in meaning, but not the phrase you'll find hanging in a tea room today. The person who actually wrote those 4 words in the exact shape we know now was Ii Naosuke, almost 300 years later. In a book he wrote about the art of tea called Chanoyu Ichie Shu. And here's the part that turns this from a nice piece of wisdom into something else entirely. Ii Naosuke didn't write those words over a quiet, peaceful cup of tea. He wrote them knowing he could be killed at any moment. A few months later, he was. So when he said this meeting might never happen again, that wasn't a pretty line for a wall scroll. That was something he was actually living every day until his very last one. So what would it actually look like to live the way he did, at your own dinner table? Not the vague, cherish every moment kind of advice everyone already says. 3 specific things. First, actually put the phone away. Not face down on the table. Face down still means it's there, waiting to light up. Put it in your pocket, a drawer, somewhere you can't see it. Ii Naosuke didn't make tea with a sword laid out beside him, even knowing exactly what was waiting outside. Second, drop the idea that there's always a next time. Sounds obvious, but think about it honestly. Do you actually believe that, or is it just something you tell yourself so you can keep scrolling in peace? Ii Naosuke saw plenty of the same guests week after week, but he never once used that as a reason to check out of the moment. Because he knew, even with the same person, today's version of this would never happen exactly the same way again. Third, do one small thing that marks that you're actually here. In tea ceremony, there's a simple gesture before it begins. A bow, a greeting to the guest, a way of saying, everything else waits now. You don't need to bow at the dinner table, but you can have your own version of that. A phrase, a pause before the meal starts, something that reminds you, right now, here, is the only place I need to be. None of this makes you live forever, but it makes you actually there for the time you do have. I still think about him sometimes whenever I sit down to eat with someone. Not the danger waiting outside his gate, just the fact that he kept making tea, properly, gently, like nothing frightening was happening at all. There's someone I met once who told me that after hearing this story, she started leaving her phone in another room during dinner. Not because she was afraid of dying, just because she realized how many dinners she'd missed, even while sitting right there for all of them. She says the meals don't feel the same anymore, not because anything special happens, just because she's actually there to see it every time. Maybe Ii Naosuke didn't leave us a lesson about death. Maybe he left us a small question for anyone sitting across the table from someone right now. If this were the last time, would you actually be here?